elephants can't jump, well-being is a topic that we are all very interested in. Within recent years, it has become a hotbed for exciting new innovations and brands across many different sectors. Today, we are going to be speaking to Andrea Waters, a longtime client and friend of the elephants. Andrea has spent nearly 20 years working for Molson Coors within marketing and innovation. Over the last 5 years, much of her innovation focus has been within the world of health and alcohol, exploring consumer attitudes towards drinking and how that fits into the complex puzzle of well-being. The work that she has done has led to a number of really exciting innovations, including Aspall's Pip and Wild range, Wellraiser, which is hop-based sparkling water, as well as the recent partnership with Bodega Bay hard seltzer. Andrea is currently taking a very well-deserved well-being sabbatical, having recently left Molson Coors, and will be talking to us today about her own personal experiences and thoughts on well-being. So, to begin with, sort of quite a straightforward question, really. What does well-being mean to you personally?
I always find it really hard to be asked this question. And it's a funny one, isn't it? Because you asked me to do this a few weeks ago now. And obviously at the moment I'm on my well-being sabbatical. So I should find it quite easy to answer the question, but I still had to have a good long think about it.
Yeah, it's not actually too straightforward, is it?
Well, it's not, is it? And it can change by the day, really, can't it? I think that's the most interesting thing about health and well-being. But I guess, when I really think about it, or when I really drilled it down, it's about a feeling, isn't it? For me, it's about how I feel. And you guys know me pretty well. I've got a lot of energy and I like to feel quite energized. So it's about maintaining that feeling, albeit it's not realistic to feel like that all the time. So, we all have days where we're tired or struggle a bit with that. And I find that quite hard to deal with. But in the main, for me, trying to maintain that energy level is around food and drink, but food in particular. I'm very, very careful with what I eat. I enjoy healthy eating. It's not for me something that I have to force on myself or really think about. It's just something that I enjoy doing. So I do it through food and I do it through exercise and yoga specifically. So I'm a vegetarian. I've been a veggie for about 5 or 6 years now. And I love yoga practice, but I also love seeing my friends and going out. I absolutely love a cheeky beer, and I love pizza. So it's about having a balance, I suppose, and I've never wanted to sway so much into the super healthy spectrum that I lose elements of having fun and being able to socialize with others. And it's about getting that balance right, I suppose, so without thinking about it, because I don't really like to overanalyze it or, for it to rule my life, basically, I guess I do pretty much apply a 80-20 rule to what I'm doing. And some weeks that might be 90-10 in favor of health. And sometimes it might be 60-40 in favor of health. And that's fine too, because I don't really want to overthink it. But by doing that, by knowing that I can take the guardrails off and, have a few cheeky beers with friends and have a bit of fun, it makes it a lot easier for me to apply the 80% most of the time and generally have that feeling of well-being. But it definitely comes down to that feeling and feeling happy in myself, how I feel and how I look. It's all interlinked, isn't it? It's a complex one.
But it's balancing those different elements of the puzzle, like you say, that social element of you going out for beers with your friends versus, that yoga, mindfulness, plus sort of physical strengthening, and then your diet and food, and just making sure that, sometimes they give, sometimes they take.
Yeah.
Making sure that's all maintained to maintain that feeling of general overall happiness.
Yeah, and it's about finding the right stuff, I suppose, as well, isn't it? So for me, I love doing yoga. I really struggle to do meditation. I have to try and make myself do that because I'm not great at sitting still. I hate the gym. My idea of hell is going to a gym on a daily basis, but I'll happily roll my yoga mat out and do yoga. So I guess it's just about finding the things that work for us. The one thing that I won't do is force myself to do something that I don't want to do. Or if I go to bed and think I'll do some exercise tomorrow, and then I wake up and I don't feel like it, I don't make myself. I don't enforce that on myself. I just try to, because otherwise I think you don't achieve that feeling. So I try to just go with how I do feel and respect that, if you like, and therefore I feel like I achieve that feeling better. I think when you force yourself to go to the gym, or you force yourself to eat a salad when in fact you fancy, sweet potato fries with mayonnaise, you don't actually achieve the feeling of happiness. So that's kind of what it comes down to for me.
Absolutely. It's a very personal experience for everyone, and everyone has their own way of approaching it. And it's like you say, good to figure out what works for yourself, rather than being, saying, oh, so-and-so works out every morning, therefore I have to as well.
Yeah, although I do notice, and then maybe it's more in women, I'm not quite sure, there's almost like a bit of competitiveness in this area that I don't feel comfortable with it personally, but of like, oh, I've done 10K today, or I've done a 5K in 26 minutes. And it's like, oh, it's really hard sometimes to not get drawn in to that competitive nature of exercise, and food, actually. It can happen quite a bit, which I don't think necessarily is a positive aspect of health and wellness. That can actually be bad for people's mental health, if they feel because their friends have done more than them, they've not done enough that day. I think there's a real fine line, actually, in terms of being able to maintain that balance, and feel good. Even if you've chosen to do nothing that day, still be able to feel good about it because you've rested yourself. So that competitiveness, I'm kind of like watching that thinking, that's interesting. I'm not so keen on that.
Absolutely. And I think, with a lot of trends, obviously there is a dark side to a lot of trends, and it's important to remember that with wellness, and especially the pressures of social media, is that there can be this pressure to perform and look as though you are fitting a certain lifestyle. And
Definitely.
It's hold that arm's length and make sure it doesn't get in the way of the emotional part of your well-being.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I have an 11-year-old daughter. And some of the images that you see on social media that yourself as an adult are doctored within a millimeter of their life. To protect an 11-year-old in that, and think, trying to explain to an 11-year-old that that's not real, that's not really what that person looks like, that is definitely the dark side. So not for myself personally, but for raising a daughter really is an area that concerns me, actually.
And they do say, obviously, they're starting to see the impact of that coming through, especially within Gen Z at the moment. And the social media influence and rising levels of unhappiness. So I think there is really, now more than ever, a real role for wellness and teaching wellness as it should be, like you say, maintaining that general feeling as happiness to younger generations, and making sure that it's a really integral part of education.
Absolutely.
So specifically within the world of food and drink, what do you consider to be the biggest wellness trends of the moment?
So I'm a bit of a nerd in this area, as you well know. So what I consider might not be the most mainstream, but I honestly think that gut health and the rise of conversations around the gut microbiome, and the awareness around that is a massive one, or certainly an emergent one that will become massive. In terms of innovation for food. And you see it much more in food at the moment than you do in drinks, but it's certainly coming through in drinks as well. But I think gut health and the importance of gut health to our overall health. Serotonin is produced in our gut. That's what makes us happy. I think gut will become a very important thing for consumers when they become more aware of it. So I don't think it's particularly mainstream at the moment, but I certainly see more and more stuff in that area, but I don't know if that's just because that's what I'm consuming.
And for anyone watching who isn't aware of gut health, how would you describe that? What is it specifically about?
So it's basically around, it sounds quite gross, but it's basically all around the good bacteria that exists in your colon, that impacts the whole of your body. So they talk about the gut microbiome as your second brain, because of the impact it has to your overall feeling of health. And it basically comes down to eating a really healthy, mainly plant-based diet, which enables good bacteria to grow in your colon, outweighing the bad bacteria in your colon. And that can affect your mental health. It certainly can affect your energy levels, but your skin and your hair, it has really quite a massive impact, actually. And a lot of it is driven by having a plant-based diet. It's not totally plant-based, but basically the more plants you can put in, the better. Is the easiest way to access to gut health, I think.
And as you say, it's not the most glamorous of positions to describe. Second you say colon, I think people are like, whew. But have you come, and I think it's obviously quite a challenge for brands operating within that world to engage consumers, mainstream consumers, to buy into that category and the benefits of that, just because of the wording around it. Have you come across any brands through your research and experience that do this well currently?
I think that obviously the dairy industry are quite good. So a brand like Actimel, for example, they've done it for years, haven't they? Gut health isn't really a new thing. It just is a bit of the new kid on the block at the moment, I think. But I think because of the health benefits it does have, I don't think it will be a flash in the pan trend as such. I think it will be more of a lifestyle thing for people. But I think Actimel have operated in this space for a long time. But more recently, the kombucha category, which does have live cultures. So I think people understand live cultures better than talking about the gut microbiome. So, like you said, it's not the sexiest area to talk about. It's very hard to put it into consumer language that they either understand or you want on your packaging, basically. Because you can't sex it up, can you? It's not a glamorous area. But I think, there's kombucha and there's kefir, different products coming through now that are beneficial for gut health, but you can't beat plants, really.
No, you can't. And especially, like you say, kombucha and kefir, it's very much in that world of drinks at the moment as well. There's a big explosion and it's very exciting.
Yep. And you've got the super rise of kimchi.
Oh, of course, kimchi.
Yep.
And in terms of other trends, have there been any others on the horizon that you're thinking this could be increasingly important in food and drink?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and it's linked to gut health actually, but I think immune health. And I think immunity, because of, probably mainly driven by COVID-19 actually, which, I didn't want to make our health conversation around COVID because we're all bored to tears of talking. But I genuinely think that people's focus on their immune health and their immune system, and the importance of keeping your immune system healthy has been driven by COVID-19, because probably never before have we watched so much TV or documentaries or news around our immunity. And I think that, there's been a massive surge in people buying supplements. Apparently supplement sales have gone through the roof, and so that people can make their immune systems better. I think that we'll really start to see that come through outside of taking supplements to boost your immunity. I think we'll really start to see that come through in the world of food and drink, in terms of being able to boost immunity via what we eat and drink versus taking tablets on top of what we eat and drink, albeit, I love taking supplements. So
absolutely. No, it's interesting. I was walking around the supermarket the other day, just in the fruit and veg aisle, and I noticed it was in Tesco's, and they'd put stickers on different fruit and veg saying, high in potassium, high in magnesium, high in vitamin D, C on the different fruit and vegetables. And again, that's definitely tapping into that concern for the immune system and wanting to not just buy supplements, but also looking at those natural, sort of ready, fresh
through
produce
what we
that
eat.
can boost it. Yeah,
exactly. And we've been looking at food and drink for a long time. I don't think that you would have seen that a year ago, do you?
No. I mean, both of us are regularly sort of snooping around supermarkets, seeing what's out there and the latest health things. And I obviously you see it from time to time, but not on own label fruit and veg. That was definitely a new thing for me.
So I think that one's being driven by COVID. I mean, I think it'll be a good thing that comes out of COVID. But again, I don't think that one will be a flash in the pan. I think that will, enable people to change their lifestyle, actually.
Absolutely. No, there is maybe a silver lining, if we can say that, to COVID, is that maybe people will be trying to look at their immune systems and taking better care of their physical health within regards to that.
Absolutely.
And obviously the psychological effects of having a balanced and strong immune system as well. So we've spoken a lot about these trends, and you've mentioned some brands that you admire, kefir and kombucha, as well as the classic Actimel, which is, as you say, been doing it for years and doing it very well, actually. Are there any other brands, just broadly within the world of health, that you think, not even specifically to do with food and drink, that you just think they are absolutely nailing it with their approach to well-being?
Yep. So this one was hard for me because there are loads.
There are a lot of fantastic brands, aren't there?
There are, and I think there are a load of new brands popping into the space as well, which is, it's awesome to see people being entrepreneurial in the face of a fairly rubbish year, really, isn't it? So yeah, I think there is silver lining, because I think that we're seeing a lot of healthy food and drink brands coming into the market as a result of, having a global pandemic. So I had to go with what was the first brand that came into my head when you'd given me this question, which is, and that I'm a lover of this brand, which is Sweaty Betty. So it's not food and drink, obviously. It's, what I would consider to be a fashion brand, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think what they've done, which is, it really resonates with me. They're beautiful clothes. They use fabulous fabrics. They've got really good ethics. And they've made you look cool when you're exercising, which is your most uncool, sweaty, time, frankly. And I also just love the fact that, not at the moment because of COVID, but before, there's shops that they had, at the end of the day, at the end of the shopping day, they would become a yoga studio for free. Yeah. So you could go and do a yoga. So I think in terms of tapping into, I think they tap into a real insight that women want to look good when they're exercising. We want to look nice when we're running or doing our yoga practice, whatever it is. And I think they've really tapped into an insight in that. But then also, creating something bigger than just nice clothes, which is, that yoga thing that they do with their shops, which you don't have to pay for, which I just think is a really cool thing to do as a brand. But, they're probably, there's loads of brands in that space now doing very fashionable, athleisure wear. That's quite commonplace now. But for me personally, that was the first one that I kind of came across. And first often sticks, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's such a fun brand as well. They really, for a lot of people, exercise can be it can be a chore, a necessary chore. And they bring an element of fun, which makes it feel like less of a chore. And,
and it's a great name.
Into part of the community.
Definitely. But the name's clever. Because you do get sweaty. The clothes are really nice, but I try to limit myself to only shopping when it's on sale. Not cheap.
Yeah, it definitely can break the bank.
Yeah, so when I get the email like the Sweaty Betty sales on, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in.
Run to the computer, furiously dropping everything into the basket. Yeah, and I noticed with Sweaty Betty actually over lockdown. I'm a big fan of the brand as well. I noticed that they were also putting loads of fantastic home videos out there as well. So really making sure they expand their brand and accommodate for their consumer base within the weird times we are currently living in, and making sure that they maintain that sense of community and fun throughout, which I thought, fantastic, as many brands have done very successfully over lockdown.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much stuff going off in tech, but there's a lot of things that aren't affordable for, most, or for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I wouldn't necessarily admire a brand that isn't accessible to many.
Yes.
That's so exclusive. Because the other one for me is a more category one, and it's kombucha as a category. I stopped drinking. I used to have a really bad Diet Coke Zero addiction.
I remember.
You remember exactly.
Stock up on Diet Coke.
Exactly. So I haven't drank it for 4 years now. But I absolutely love carbonated drinks, hence my love of beer. And so kombucha for me is a great category because I can have a carbonated drink that is healthy and that helps my gut health. So for me, that's another one that really taps into a consumer need, really. And lets me have a fizzy drink when I can't.
Absolutely. And they're delicious as well.
They are. Well, like any category, there's some good and there's some not so good.
Yeah, that is true. The ones I've tried have all been delicious so far. Touch wood. And just going back to that food and drink category.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's sort of the heartland for both of us. In terms of advice, based off the work that you've done, especially within innovation over the course of your career, what advice would you have for a food or drink brand that is looking to enter into the wellness arena?
Yeah.
Whether that's a startup whose purpose is wellness, or a brand that is maybe less wellness focused, but wanting to make sure they have a product or a service that caters for their consumers in that manner.
I think this was a really good question, and for me, it's actually a really simple answer, which is be authentic. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to claim to be healthy or better or gut health, whatever it is, be it. I think there are so many brands. It's really hard as a shopper, a consumer, to buy things and know whether they are good for you or not, unless you're prepared to stand for 10 minutes in a shop and read everything on it, which, let's be honest, most of us don't have the time or want to do that, actually. So I think in the area of health and wellness, there's quite a lot of deception. But I think that, consumers now are so empowered by the information that we have through technology. You get caught out at some point, and some people might never catch you out. But genuinely, I think that there's a need for authenticity, clean labeling, make it easy for consumers. It's easy to just say, have a point of difference or have a purpose. And yes, new brands need those things too. But I think in these times now, when people are more conscious of what they're putting into their bodies, wanting to take more care, making it easy for them and being true is going to be really important for people going forwards, because we just haven't got the time to stand and read everything that we want to put into our mouths. And
absolutely.
I think the brands that do that for us and make it easy for us, I think will win.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of your average Joe in a supermarket, Tesco, Sainsbury's, if they're choosing most groceries in a store, a very quick decision.
Yeah.
It's not like buying a laptop or a new dress where you're sitting there thinking, but this one makes my bum look good, but this one's a nice pattern. You're there, you're thinking, what do I want really quickly? And the one that sings the health benefits to you
grab
really loud and clear in a believable and authentic manner, like you say, is the one you're going to pick up. So absolutely. Get those stickers saying full of potassium on it.
Exactly. That would be my snippet of advice.
Excellent. I think that's very good advice. And final question, do you think COVID will have any long-term impact on how we approach well-being? Obviously, we've spoken about our focus on the immune system, but well-being in terms of that balanced puzzle that you were discussing earlier. How COVID may impact that in the future. And it may not. But
it's a really hard question, isn't it? Because I think most of us are sitting around thinking, well, how long is COVID?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, how long is COVID going to be around? Do I think it'll have an
How long
impact?
is a piece of string?
Yeah, but it's like, do I think it'll have an impact? Yes, I definitely do, because I think it's probably the first time in most people's lives, certainly mine, certainly yours, that we've dealt with something this big. And so for that to not have an impact, I think is borderline impossible. But whether the impact will mean that everybody lives, you know, a super healthy life, I don't know. It might have the complete opposite. And hopefully when it has gone away, everyone might go completely wild. You don't really know, do you? It's one of those weird situations that, you know, it has made such a significant change to how we live our lives. You don't really know, you know, what the end looks like. So it's a really hard question for me to answer. What I hope is that it does have an impact in terms of people having a better work-life balance from being able to be at home more, you know, and more focus on, and more time to exercise, more focus on eating healthier foods and achieving that balance simply from having a bit more time, actually.
Absolutely.
But equally, again, you know, once offices are open again, and how quickly as human beings we default back into our norm behavior is always quite fascinating, isn't it? Because that is what we do. So my answer is, don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's so many other factors at play. There's socio-economic circumstances. A lot of people don't have the benefit of working from home, obviously, and it is all a lot of question marks, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it really is. But my hope is that it will. You know.
Yeah.
I think most people that I know or, you know, spend time with, you know, to begin with, found the whole situation frustrating, and as we all did, annoying, feeling controlled. You know, that's not a nice feeling at all. But it's funny how quickly you adjust to things and you change your lifestyle around that. So I hope that it does have a positive impact in the long run.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, we just want it to go away.
Yeah, please. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. It's been wonderful talking to you about this. I mean, we talk about it all the time, so it just feels like a normal chit chat, actually. I feel like we should be getting our sort of prep coffees out and sort of nattering away in one of our meetings.
Soon, please.
Soon.
Let me back to it
soon. You'll have to come up to London soon and venture in.
All right, well, it's lovely to see you. Take care, and I'll see you soon.